All right, guys. Good morning. Good morning. Hold on. Let me get some music going. Let me know if the music's too loud. I could always turn it down. Pretty easy. All right, guys. So Nasdaq is down a little bit today. It opened up the day at around 23,550, 23,006. It is now down to 23,005. So it's down slightly. Nvidia and other microchips are down slightly. Gold is kind of sideways. Amazon is down a little bit today, and others. So we're mostly red. Slightly. Gold is kind of sideways. Whoa, let me know if this mic is too loud. We should be okay. What's up, Steve? Caesar. K9 Jackal. Ray. Ryan. Amor. Marco. Pawn. Amir. What's up, guys? Good morning. All right, so basically what's going on this morning is that stocks are kind of cooling lower following a strong rally by dovish cues from Powell last week. On Friday, investor sentiment is still pretty high, though. Markets are pricing in almost a 90% chance of rate cuts. Almost a 90% chance. Currently, they're at what? Currently, they're at 85% chance. 85 to 15, roughly, odds of a rate cut. And so we're basically at 85-15. So currently 85% chance of a cut in September, 15% chance of a pause. If we take a look at yields, yields are actually a little bit up, showing a more hawkish sentiment. These rate odds were at about 90% last week. Now they are down to yeah, you can see like from Powell, here's Friday on the 22nd. From Powell, market just dumped. Or not market, but rate cut odds went up and yields decreased here. You can see from Powell on Friday, he was much more dovish than expected. Market originally reacted positively. We're correcting a little bit from that this morning. You can see, though, this morning we're slightly elevated in terms of yields, which means interest rates and yields follow each other. So if yields are slightly up, that means we got a slightly like hawkish, correction today, but it's very small. We're still net down in yield, so we're net lower interest rate sentiment. In odds of a rate cut next month are up substantially. So yeah, we'll probably cut rates next month. I think this week we got some really important data though, right? Like tomorrow tomorrow is Tuesday actually, so no, it's not tomorrow. Wednesday we have Nvidia earnings. Thursday we have GDP data, jobless claims, and pending home sales, and then Friday we have PCE inflation data. That is data. All of that stuff is stuff that could influence rate odds, except for maybe Nvidia. I don't think Nvidia is going to move it, but it could. If Nvidia comes out really strong, or really weak, it could swing the odds a little bit, I guess, but not really. Most likely not. So the Swiss Post is suspending U.S. goods shipments from August 26th due to tariffs, according to Bloomberg. Don't really have much else coming out this morning. Japanese tariff negotiator Akazawa is going to visit the U.S. as early as this week, likely to discuss joint communique, according to FNN. I don't know if that was a translation. As we had some earnings from PDD this morning that showed up. They showed up at adjusted EPS of 2207 versus 1631, way better than expected. Their revenue of 104 billion versus 104.7 billion expected. So they missed revenue. I'm assuming they're down. They're actually up. This is how you never know how earnings are going to react, but PDD is now up on this. Really big beat to EPS. Also, Abercrombie & Fitch announced a official fashion partnership with the NFL. I don't see any other really big news. Mercedes selling some of its stake in Nissan. Hey, early. All right. Yeah, I don't see any other big news. Yeah, Bitcoin, of course, on that big correction has been in. It's still at 111s, though, but I think 100K is the big. 100K is the big level for Bitcoin. I think it wants to hold 100. Nvidia is actually, corrected a little bit. Nvidia has been mostly sitting if we take a look at it, Nvidia is mostly sitting in the 80s for this month in August, right? Nvidia is now down to 170s. It kind of rebounded some Friday though, but it hit 168, late last week, and now it's back up to like 178 or so right now for Nvidia. So it's getting back up there, but it's still under 180s if we look at it. Everything's on like a slight pullback, and again, the data this week might sway things. Pull up Discord. Yeah, yields are currently at 4.275% for 10-year. Yeah, so analysts say investors are reassessing Friday's enthusiasm as the new week gets underway. Bitcoin falls to 6-week lows. All-time high is just under 125K. According to AI, Terry Tillman, an analyst at Truist, has increased the price target of Microsoft to $675 from $650, maintaining a buy rating, upside of nearly 29% from the current level. AI demand is what's driving it, they think. Foot Locker shareholders approved deal to sell business to Dick's Sporting Goods, expected to complete in the second half of 2025. An $18 billion deal to buy JDE Pete's, Keurig Dr. Pepper unwinds a 2018 marriage between soda and coffee. They'll create two separately traded companies. So an Amazon AI chip executive also joined ARM to build complete chips. That could be why Amazon's reacting negatively some here this morning. It's down some. Again, Intel is popping up a little bit. Today. It was up 2 to 3% earlier, following news that the U.S. government is going to make an $8.9 billion equity investment, taking an almost 10% stake, 9.9% stake. Furniture retailers are down after the president announced a tariff investigation into imported furniture. Domestic manufacturers like Ethan Allen and Lazy Boy are outperforming though, but Wayfair, Williams-Sonoma, and RH are down. PDD, which is Temu's parent company, is up 11% after good Q2 earnings. And Nvidia is up about 33% year to date, but it's down slightly in pre-market. Wednesday earnings report now key for markets, I think, right now, especially given AI's role in market optimism. So if Nvidia has a bad earnings report, it could be bad for AI and tech really here, Again, futures are slipping. High expectation for September cuts still there. So we're watching that. What do I want to do here? There we go. That's a little bit better. How you guys doing this morning? What's up, Drago, Scala? Yeah, whale selling Bitcoin. It was one whale sold 24,000 Bitcoin in a single, yeah. Yeah, I hope Nvidia does well. I hope Nvidia does. What's up, man? Yeah, I'm doing good. Doing good. I can't. It says this is not a vocal song, but if this guy starts rapping, I'm going to turn it off. MicroStrategy short. The new data is coming. PCE data is coming on the 29th this month. GDP is coming on the 28th, and jobless claims are coming on the 28th. Nvidia earnings are going to be on the 27th. So we got three big catalysts from the 27th, 28th, and 29th this week is what it is. Open? Yeah, I mean, Open's up a lot. It's back up to highs. It's at $5 a share. Looks strong. We'll see what happens. Let's do a poll. All right, we're going to do a poll. with Nvidia earnings, GDP, and PCE data. With Nvidia earnings, GDP, and PCE data coming, are you bullish or bearish for this week? Vote on the poll. Let me know how you feel. I'm thinking about shorting right here, though. We're right at the 200 exponential. Might take a longer term short position. Let's see if we can. Just a trend continuation pattern here. Might take 2 right here. Flat. Friday was a great day. I mean, we made hundreds of dollars Friday. It was really nice. Yeah, I see crypto people are in trouble for sure. Not really in trouble, I would say, but, you know, they're going to be upset, of course. I'm in crypto. I'm not really worried too much about it. The trade desk. Yeah, Friday was easy money, man. It was easy to make money on Friday. It really was. Like, the volatility was there. It was really easy to attack stuff, you know? Okay. I could take profit here. It's too small. I think the range is too small. I'd rather just let it work. I'm in XRP too. I hope we don't range too small here though. Live crypto, I mean, we might trade micro Bitcoin or something like that. I might talk about crypto. I don't usually trade it live here. It's not really my style. Yeah, market's kind of sideways. I'm gonna let it trade out of this sideways trend, but the range is very small. I actually got a look at a Rivian earlier this week. I like Rivian stock. Rivians are cool. The thing Rivian really needs to adopt is FSD, though, I think. You know what I mean? Like, I think they need to get involved with FSD. Or, like, self-driving. They have a little bit of it, but it's not nearly as extensive as some others, like Tesla, of course. So I think if they want to compete, that's what they got to do. And I'm sure that's probably what they are doing. Okay, so now we're flushing right back down. Let's see if we got any news. Rivian is supposed to build a $5 billion Georgia plant. Again, the Swiss Post, I talked about this already, but the Swiss Post suspended a U.S. goods shipment from August 26 due to tariffs. Lagarde says Europe's economy is resilient and not thriving. It kind of contradicts each other now. Alright, we're going to take a piece of this off here just because we're in the green. You know? I'm going to just let the rest ride here. Try to give this time, but we are at the bottom of the range here. I don't know what I want to do. Why do you think September will be pain for longs? We have interest rate cuts most likely mid-September. Who said pain for longs? I don't mind. Oh, you're talking about Top Cat. I am a bull until September. I expect September to deliver pain for longs and finally melt up Q4. Yeah, it's possible. We'll see. I don't know, man. I think it depends on a lot of different things. I really do. I think it depends on a lot of different things. I think we have a lot of data coming out, not just this week, but next week's important, right? Like, you got to understand, next week we have another labor report coming out, which is not small. Of course, the last labor report is what bumped rate cut odds up so substantially on weakness in the labor market. And so if we get like a strong labor report here, that certainly could influence rates. I'm not sure if it will, but it certainly could. Next week's actually busier than this week. We've got the JOLTS job report, ISM manufacturing, non-farm employment, jobless claims, ISM services. Monday, the market's closed. And then every day next week after Monday is basically busy. September is also pretty well known for like a slump in September. Like September odds of... We usually get like some type of slump in September. Not always though. And Nvidia earnings might influence where the market goes more than any of this stuff, because Nvidia is the largest weighted stock in the stock market. And so if we get bad Nvidia earnings, market might be going down. We'll see. Yeah, Open Door has ripped up a lot. The market's not really holding one way down, though. We're kind of flat here. I gotta watch my trade now, but... I mean, I'll let it go break even. It just didn't really break down enough to get any reasonable profit from this. We're still sideways. Hmm. Yeah, I'm looking at this. All right, so there's the breakdown. So we're getting a little continuation here. Yeah, I don't know about the other ones. All right, so we got this nice flush. I'm gonna add a little bit to it up here. Lower my risk down some. See if we can follow through to the downside some more here. As long as we don't do like a liquidity grab up, we should be pretty safe, I think. And even if we do, we can get out close to break even. Crescent Energy is going to acquire Vital Energy in an all-stock transaction at $3.1 billion. All-stock deal. I don't really see any breaking news right now. Grayscale filing for an S1 for Avalanche ETF. According to JP Morgan, they said we remain tactically bullish. Powell's speech ejects in whole. Hasn't quite confirmed a September cut, but odds of a cut are up substantially here. But JP Morgan thinks it confirms a September cut, ignited the rally, which also broadened at this stage. Even a hotter CPI print on September 11th seems unlikely to derail optimism around monetary policy. So we'll see what happens with JP Morgan and them. I think banks are doing pretty good. At Baird, Nvidia's price target was raised ahead of their earnings from 195 to 225 here. 195 to 225, maintaining an outperform rating. It reflects stronger revenue and EPS estimates driven by accelerating GB200 shipments in July, which momentum expected to continue in that direction. So Sharps Technology is raising $400 million to fund Solana treasury strategy, an over $400 million private offering. It announced to support its plans to adopt a Solana-based digital asset treasury strategy. So we got that stuff going on. We're green here. We're not really moving in any direction. Then the market's pretty muted. I mean, the NASDAQ is down. So maybe I'm trading against the extension. I'm just trying to ride the trend. We've already taken some profit, added back, and now we're sitting in this flat. So we'll see what we get. I gave myself every chance to win in this trade, but sometimes the chop stays too... Sometimes it's too choppy. We'll see what happens, though. Yeah, I mean, we don't always have to get a September slump. It's possible we do, but it's certainly not, like, necessary. Like we don't have to get it. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have to get a September slump. It's certainly possible we move up in September. It's not like they just look at September on average in terms of months, and they, like, look, I'll show you. All right, this is from 1928 to by Yardeni Research is who this is by, and the Motley Fool. Right. So this is by Yardeni Research, Motley Fool, giving me this data, but you can kind of see September down about 1%. Other places is showing about 1% decrease in September. And so you can see September is the worst month historically. There's a couple other months like February and May that can pivot downward. All the rest of the months are net green here. But September specifically is one of the worst months for stock market, you know, movement here. All right, we got a really nice breakdown. I'm going to go ahead and take some off right here, I guess. The range is just too small not to, I think. I think I kind of have to. Oh, I just took the whole position off. No. Well, I guess we just retrace back up there. Oh, well. We're slightly green. Slightly green on the day. We made a little bit of money on the trade. The market's so choppy right now, maybe that's the right move anyway. I didn't mean to take the whole position off, but sometimes that's how it goes. STSS is running big on that news that we just covered a minute ago. Personally, I'll use any pump back between now and early September. Yeah. Oh, in that regard, I accidentally got out early, but we ended up rebounding back up, so it looks like it was the right time. I've seen a stat online a few days after Jackson Hole, the market tends to be down. Check the last 4 years. Yeah, I think that could be true sometimes. Are you sick? Your voice seems off. My nose is stopped up. I don't know if I'm sick, but it could be mag. I think it's more so what we're getting right now is more so just kind of a hangover from the Jackson Hole optimism. So markets are still up from Jackson Hole. They're just kind of down a little bit this morning as odds of a rate cut reduced a little bit over the weekend. I'm the only one that does not see the crypto world leading us anywhere. I don't know, man. I think you have to think about it in terms of utility. He said it's just like an MLM game. I don't think so necessarily. I think for the same reason PayPal is valuable, crypto is valuable, because it can do a similar thing in that regard, which is send money anywhere with less red tape, right? And quickly. And so I think just like PayPal is a huge company, so is crypto and so is Bitcoin. Now, all of them are certainly not useful. And the real issue is that people hear currency at the end of it, and they end up assuming that it's an actual currency like the US dollar. And that's not what Bitcoin is. You know, you got to think like money's going digital, right? Money's going digital. This is just objectively true. We can pretend it's not, but it is. And Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, they can act like their own bank. They can do a lot of things that show utility. And that's what people bet on, you know. Even if he cuts, it's only going to be 25 basis points. Yeah, I mean, I understand. But the unemployment rate had increased at almost a full percentage point in development that historically has not occurred outside of recessions. Yeah, I mean, that's more of an argument for rate cuts, too. But you got to understand, rate cuts, like a 25 basis point cut's not that much, but what it signals is a easing cycle. It signals an easing cycle. That's what people are all optimistic about, is potential easing. Yeah, I never thought he would be dovish either. I mean, I thought, based off of his last... But, I mean, you got to understand, a $300,000, like almost 300K job revision, that'll make you pretty dovish if you see some things. Like, Powell certainly doesn't want to be too late, and... John, you think that crypto went up from Jackson Hole over the weekend and might dump as money moves to the stock market? I mean, you got to understand, like, Bitcoin, at this point in time, Bitcoin reacts very favorably to dovishness and, like, low interest rate environment. People like Bitcoin from that specifically, right? So you got to understand that's what Bitcoin's going to react favorably to. Bitcoin's probably down today because odds of a rate cut decreased slightly over the weekend, but it's not a perfect correlation either. It depends, you know. All right, so it looks like me accidentally selling right there was the right move. Oh. All right, Nasdaq's pushing back up. We just tapped the 200 exponential. We're right under 23.5s. So we'll see if we hold right there at 23.5s. Why did the odds decrease? Well, I think when something first comes out, we get kind of like a manic reaction. And then afterwards, people settle into it a little bit more, is most likely what's going on. I mean, they decreased slightly. They were at 90, now they're at 85. So, you know, they decreased very small amount, very small amount. We've had digital currency for decades now. What do you think about credit cards? Yeah, I mean, I understand. But they're looking for more efficient ways. Just to use a credit card, you got to pay the bank. Look at this decrease here. Something going on. So it is now 7:50 market time. Look at this drop. Look at this. It's not, even still, this is not a very big drop in terms of range. It's really not. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on. Okay, so Zelensky says Ukraine doesn't want to reduce its military. It's something that I'm seeing here. And I don't know if that's making the drop happen. It might just be a regular drop. Again, the range isn't a huge, even though it looks big on screen, the range is kind of small. Yeah, somebody liquidated about 24,000 Bitcoins Sunday afternoon, Central Time. Worth over 2.7 billion were liquidated, causing a 4,000 plus crash. Again, 100,000 makes sense. I'm looking at 100K. See if it holds there. I have a bunch of different sources. Yeah. All right, so again, we're rangy right now. Nvidia is trying to go green and is green on the day at this point. It's at 178.11s, 178.11s for Nvidia. So Nvidia just climbed all the way back up. It is now technically green. We're now technically green on the day. We'll see if it holds. Let's see the other real big news. But we're really range bound right now. I think markets are waiting. It's a big week. We got PCE data, we got GDP data, and most importantly, probably we got Nvidia earnings on Wednesday. And so the market might be muted until then. It's very possible it is. We'll see though. All right. All right, so Nvidia again push it up steady green. What a ridiculous comment by Harsh. Good day to you, sir. Yeah, I mean, again, I think blockchain is a good technology, a valuable technology. And I think that's what helps Bitcoin. All right, so the Commerce Department revised U.S. building permit data issued on August 19th. They revised to negative 2.2% from negative 2.8% annual rate to 1.362 million units from 1.35 million units. So they actually revised them a little bit more positive for building permits than expected. I don't know. I don't think that would make the market rip up like this, but maybe. NASDAQ back up over the 200 exponential. Let's watch 23.5. I got to draw some levels here on the charts, I think. Here's one. Here's another. The range is still pretty small. See if we can get over 23.5 and hold. But again, the range is still pretty light. It's not really doing much. Yeah, market's very boring right now. Very boring. Gold up to 3,400s right now. So gold is actually doing really well. Look at gold. I was like, gold's still doing very nice. All right, so NASDAQ still rejecting. We got the 200 exponential right underneath us here. Here's the SPY. SPY's pretty red on the day. There's not really any other. Again, we had China had an NDRC pledges to boost employment. And again, the Commerce Department on Monday revised U.S. building permit data issued on August 19th. Outside of that, we don't really have any big economic reports today. We got new home sales, and we got a couple Fed members speaking. Dallas Fed, Lori Logan and John Williams speaking at 7:15. Lori Logan speaking at 3:15. So it's not really busy. Tomorrow we got durable goods, Case Shiller, CB consumer confidence data, which might influence things. We'll see. Wednesday we got Nvidia earnings. Thursday jobless claims, unemployment, and GDP first revision data. GDP is actually expected to be revised upward at 3.1% from 3% for quarter two. GDP first revision. PCE data is expected at 2.6% year over year, and core PCE expected at 2.9%, which is a 0.1% uptick relative to last time. We'll see what that looks like. Yeah, it's very sideways, man. The market's not really moving. The range is tiny. We're up a little bit, but the range is very small. Still consolidating. Like, we have a level 23.5, and then we have the 200 exponential right here, like 498.50. So I think that's why the range is so small here. If we reject, maybe we'll come back down. I don't really know. I don't think it's easy to make money in this range, though. I think the range is very small. We're not really doing anything, and yeah. Gold is crazy. Yeah, gold is up. Gold is up to 3,400s, and it reacted. Gold reacted net positive to Powell. Here's Friday, right? Here's Friday right here, and look at gold rip, and it's held mostly. You know, gold seems to be moving higher, but gold and the market have kind of been following each other, and the market did react favorably to Jackson Hole. Looking at our poll number, 65% are bullish, 35% are bearish. Range is small, no big catalysts, and everything's kind of slow. All right, so yeah, it's a little boring right now. We just don't really have much going on. It's a busy week, though. We got a lot of stuff going on this week. So, see what we look like this week. All right, so now we're heading back down. Let's watch 490. 490 has historically been a support level. All right, we're heading back down. We're at 491s here. 491s. Okay, let's see if we bounce at 490. Look at this drop. That's a big drop. That's a big candle. We had a building permit data show up. Again, it was revised to 3.62 versus 1.354. So 1.362 is what its new number is, and the previous one was 1.354. So a slight upward move. That's the 8 a.m. scrum maybe moving things. Not really any. MicroStrategy buys 3,081 Bitcoin from August 18th to the 24th, which was yesterday. Aggregate purchase price of 357 million approximately. Software rate 4.36% on Friday versus 4.32% August 21st. It's the 8 a.m. move. We're still in the tight range. Still bouncing at 490. Yeah, the range is tiny right now. It just doesn't look very favorable. It's kind of a boring day, in all honesty. Yeah, let's take a look at MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy's been heading down on Bitcoin and crypto's weakness. Look at that bounce. Right around 490. I mean, we got lower, but right around 490 we bounce. Again, I'll put the MicroStrategy news up. Yeah, I saw the 24,000. Somebody sold 24,000 Bitcoin yesterday at 2 p.m. It dropped markets like 4,000 is what people are saying. IMRX announced clinical supply agreement with Eli Lilly to evaluate one of their drug combinations. All right, Nasdaq's still falling down here, which I don't mind because at least we got some range to attack here. It's Nvidia now technically red on the day as well. Nvidia now under the previous closing price. Again, now technically red. See if we hold down here for Nvidia. Lagarde says tariffs may only have a small effect on Europe's GDP. The Japan Post said we will suspend some postal items to US from Wednesday due to tariffs. And they're terminating the de minimis treatment. Yeah, if you hear them talking about de minimis, which is something you hear a lot, look at the NASDAQ breakdown here. We're under 490s. We're at 482s. Finally starting to get some range. I'm watching 475 for a bounce level. We could also bounce at 83 right here, but I'm looking at 475 as like a bounce level. Look at this red showing up. So we got some red action here. But again, there's a de minimis exemption on imports that allows small value goods to enter a country without duties, right? And so de minimis basically just means like small, like small, relatively insignificant. All right, let's watch for 475 here. Look at this drop. I might buy this level. All right, we got 2 contracts here. Let's see if we get a rebound up. There we go. And we took half off there. All right, we're out. Pretty easy money, very small scalp though. The range is so small, I think I kind of have to do this. But we're green on the day, that's nice. If you're selling something and I buy it, I can give you cash in person for it. I mean, yeah, but nobody wants to drive to see you, you know? Also, carrying cash is innately more risky in some ways. I know, that's what I'm saying. People always correlate it with the currency South style, and that's like the biggest mistake, right? Like that's one of the biggest criticisms is people treat Bitcoin like it needs to be the US dollar. Of course it's not. Like Bitcoin is more like gold. And blockchain system is more like PayPal, you know. All right, NASDAQ's still breaking down here. Look at this. I think I scalped it. See if we can figure out why. Again, Lagarde is saying companies will adjust to higher tariffs. Tariffs may only have a small effect on Europe's GDP. I don't see any other news except for Saylor buying up Bitcoin, which is pretty normal. Commerce Department revising building permits up a little bit. We're now at the bottom of today's range here. Low of the day on the NASDAQ is currently 23,462. Nvidia now technically red. I think the market's just following Nvidia. Alright, so IREN buys an additional 4,200 NVIDIA Blackwell GPUs for 193 million, secured 102 million financing. This came out about 15-20 minutes ago. It wasn't a big news story, but Well, blockchain's kind of like a bank, is a better way to say it. I'm just trying to explain, like, sending crypto in general is kind of like PayPal. Sending crypto has value. Blockchain has value for the same reason PayPal has value. You can send money. It's easy to send money. It's reliable to send money using crypto. Really, crypto is more reliable than PayPal. I'm trying to explain the value of cryptocurrency to people who always want to compare it to like a conventional, like the US dollar, which it's not. That's not the same thing, you know. Ultimately, what do you want? You want the government to control digital money, or do you want something else too? I would say I'd rather something else, but you know, it all depends. You got people that are like, yeah, you know, the government's bad, but then they criticize Bitcoin, you know, and I think it contradicts itself. Yeah, open flying up. Open is making moves. Who has their best day ever on Friday? I made money. Yeah, no, you're your own bank. That's why I was saying, like, blockchain is more like being your own bank, and it's protected. You don't need tellers. And I think that's more useful. In the end, I think people generally just fear things they don't understand and they don't know. Again, generally, the older you are, the more you fear new technology, which is understandable. I'm not even criticizing people for this, you know, but like, whenever, I always explain it, like whenever the car came out, people said it's the end of the world, right? Carriage makers and producers cried and cried about it and said it's the end of the world. It's the end of the world. People didn't like it. They said it's, you know, they said it would never work and all this different stuff. And now when you fast forward 100 years, you know, obviously it was a very useful technology that we wouldn't have nearly the convenience we have today without it. And I think you have to understand that's the nature of technological evolution. People are going to fear new technologies in whatever industry they're in. It's pretty standard. It's pretty normal, you know. Honestly, I could get on board with, like, I think AI, it's, look, I'm going to preface what I'm about to say with, I'm not going to be too dramatic about it, but AI and AI systems could lead to the end of the world as we know it. It really could, right? Like, if you see some of these AI song creators, these creators that are making songs, like there's a person that created it, that had AI create a song for it. I think it was called like Sadie Winters. And if you look up Sadie Winters and you listen to the song that's purely created by AI, it's kind of a good song, right? And that's a very scary thing, because what I think it means, I think the easiest way AI causes the end of the world as we know it is that, like, if you look at AI and you think about how good it is right now, and then you think about how good it's going to be in 20 years. In 20, 30 years, it's very reasonable to assume we're going to have like robot AIs, right? Like humanoid robots that have AI systems in their brain. And eventually it's going to become indistinguishable from what we look like, right? Eventually. Once that happens, it's going to dramatically reduce reproduction for humans, right? Like eventually it's going to pivot to that point. And where people are going to have no need to go out and meet people and do things because they have their own person right there already, right? And that's going to influence, eventually, you're probably not going to be able to tell the difference. And, you know, humans are going to have less and less children. And then over time, it could bring upon that, right? Like, that's what I see as like the biggest risks right now for it. humans are naturally lonely people if they don't have someone, and I think it's going to be very easy for them to like get an AI girlfriend. You already see them doing it with freaking yeah. So yeah, some of the AI songs are catchy. Like scary catchy because it means the end of human creativity as well. And that's a scary thing. I think that's a scary thing. Sure. Dudes already have AI girlfriends, 100%. And now imagine if they have robot ones. Now that's the next step. I mean, that's very predictably the next step, I think, right? When you look at it, that's what they're gonna freaking do. You know, if there's money to be made, people are gonna try it, and I think that's the next step here. And then eventually, it's gonna spiral and spiral and spiral and spiral. And I think that's a scary world. You know. All right, NASDAQ broke down a little bit and then rebounded back up. Let's see if it holds some of these levels. I don't see any big news coming out. Again, Japan Post says the suspension of service is going to start on August 27th, which is the day after tomorrow on Wednesday. Again, Lagarde said businesses are going to adjust to U.S. tariffs. PDD exec says changes in external environment, intensifying competition will inevitably lead to a step up in investments in the merchant ecosystem. Let's see if this 475 level rejects here. We could stay at a choppy range. Nvidia is continuing to break down. So, like, look, I think the market's following Nvidia, especially during the week of earnings. Here's Nvidia right here. It's under... I don't know what level I have. I just want the 200 exponential on the chart. Yeah, that's better. Nvidia is still flushing down, technically green, or technically red on the day now. And I think that's dragging the NASDAQ down with us. Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly. Pawn, you know. All right, so the president is set to sign an executive order today. All right, so again, look at 475. See if this level rejects. It's possible. I don't know if I'm confident enough in it to actually take the trade, but we'll see. Yeah, Japan and Switzerland want a better deal for sure. Yeah, Nvidia earnings are going to be leading everything today just based off of, yeah, look at that rejection. Where did we reject? 475. I should have maybe taken it, but the range is too small, I think. Yeah, so the president in early August said he announced them in the coming weeks with headlines talking about 100%, even up to 3% on semiconductor tariffs. This past weekend, though, it was mostly about furniture. He launched a tariff investigation into imported furniture. No new chip tariffs were issued over the weekend, though. Yeah, look, there's the 475 rejection here. Nvidia's rebounding back up, though. Gold still consolidating. MicroStrategy breaking down. Bitcoin certainly a little bit more of a struggle. All right, 475 again, rebounding back up. Nvidia is driving this. Nvidia now technically green on the day, although Nvidia is right at the 200 exponential. Tesla robotaxi incident where safety monitor had to take over suggests the company is prioritizing optics over safety, according to The Electric. Where's Tesla at right now? Tesla at 340, still pretty strong with the robotaxi debut coming out. I mean, Tesla has held better than some other stuff. But I think we're cutting. Alright, so the NDC director Hassett says the U.S. government's stake in Intel will be non-voting. Says Intel's stake was a special circumstance, but there could be similar transaction in chips in other sectors. But it's going to be non-voting right stake. So they're not going to be able to influence the company. They're just going to hold a stake in it, which probably is pretty good regarding the government. Nvidia now pulling back a little bit. Maybe I'll short this now. I guess I'll wait. Well, a bunch of people got wrecked at Bitcoin after that person sold 24,000 Bitcoin yesterday afternoon. Yeah, NASDAQ, S&P, Dow down. Hassett says it's possible government takes more equity stake in other firms. CHIPS Act money is going out as planned, he says. He said Intel will get CHIPS Act money. The government will get a stake. Alright, so now we're back up. Choppy range right now. Gold's trending here, though. Yeah. Alright, we'll see what 830 brings. Maybe we'll get some volatility here. Things are pretty muted leading into all the big stuff coming out later on this week. Yeah, ETH has done really well if you take a look at ETH. Alright, there's Nvidia coming back down. Yeah, ETH popped up on Friday, pulled back a little bit. It's at 4,600. Alright, we're at 476. Nvidia down to 177. Hassett says the government is not picking winners or losers. Again, that it's possible that government takes more equity stake from firms, and CHIPS Act money is going out as planned. Intel will get CHIPS Act money. The government will get a stake. So again, Hassett's speaking right now. Market is still so freaking rangy, man. Have a boring day. Yeah, you can take a look at Intel. Here's ETH right here. Down a little bit today, though. Nasdaq's back up over that level. Intel's green on the day on this news, so it's reacting positively. United Health is still pushing up this morning. Yeah, so Hassad's speaking right now on Bloomberg TV, or on CNBC. Hassett says Intel will get its act together with cash inflow, and they expect companies like Intel to become more profitable. And look at Intel pop up. Intel's at 2530s right now. So this is one of the things that's moving a little bit of markets this morning, is Hassett speaking on CNBC. And again, you can see he says he expects companies like Intel to become more profitable, and that they're going to get their act together with a cash inflow. And look at Intel pop. It's at 2540 right now. All right, we're now over 475. I want to see if it holds, but Nvidia's back down, technically red. Intel's up. Hassett says it's appropriate for the Fed to consider a rate cut on CNBC. He said the Powell presentation, quote, was sound. Yep. Yeah, Powell, again, much more dovish than expected, versus considering what a lot of people were expecting. Hawkish Powell. Powell much more dovish than expected. I'm going to do another poll here. So we did bull or bear right now going into the earnings, or going into the week. Let's ask another poll here. Will Powell and the FOMC cut rates next month? Yes or no? Will Powell and the FOMC cut rates? Let's see if we bounce off of 475 now that we're over it. Will the market continue down today or push up, guys? Let me know in chat that as well. So far, 75% of people think Powell will cut rates next month out of 50 votes. 26% say no. Again, do you think the market pushes up for the rest of the day and rebounds, or do you think it continues down in the downward trend? Up, down. Yeah. Might be a bearish cut. Yeah, a lot of people are saying stagflation. It all depends on Nvidia. No, Nvidia is not really going to influence rate odds, I think. I mean, it might be a story of like a bigger picture in the economy, but it's not going to directly influence rates. Not much, at least. And listen, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with the people that say rates are historically low, but I think you have to take context into that. That quote. You got to take context into it. Like, if you look at the Fed funds graph here, right? I think you have to take context into it, because you got to look at what we were. Here's the Fed funds history, right? 1980s were elevated. You know, if we look at just the last 35 years, right? We're at the topper end of the range in the last 35 years. If we look at the last 20 to 25, again, we're at the top of the range if you look at the last 25 years. So sure, if you look at the 80s and you look at the average relative to the 80s, and the 80s were wild. We had 20% basically interest rates in the 80s. Yeah, if you correlate it with, if you compare it to that, I should say, we're pretty high up in the range, or we're pretty low in the range of interest rates. Like, if you look at the whole picture here, Yeah, I mean, we're right here. But I don't know if we should compare it to 20% interest rates. I think we should look at recent, which is the last 25 years. And when you do that, we're at the top end of the range for interest. So it depends on what people are used to. That's going to affect everything else. But yeah. No, viewership's pretty good. We got almost 830 people here prior to 8:30 in the morning. MC, if it's not on your homepage, you know, it's just your own algorithm. Yeah, I should put it in live chat. I might be missing it. Hey, what's up, Sam? Got very poor doggo. Ingested some... Oh, man, sorry to hear. Sorry, Sam. Sorry about the dog, bro. Hope he feels better. You think we're going to recover before the opening bell? Yeah, we'll see. All right, so there's 8:30. Let's see if the 8:30 scrum affects the markets. We don't have any economic data today at 8:30, just to clarify. No 8:30 economic reports. Just boring. Again, building permit revisions came out for July at better than expected. Month over month, they should have been negative 2.2% versus negative 2.8% previously. We do have new home sales for July showing up at 10 a.m. today, so maybe that'll move stuff. And we got Logan speaking later, but NASDAQ's breaking down. Look at NVIDIA fall. So NVIDIA correcting a little bit. It's at 177.60. All right, so look at us break down. We're here. We're at 466, 467.50. Yeah, so in the 70s and early 80s, like you see these interest rates, which were wild, you know, in the 70s and early 80s. By the late 70s, inflation was crazy. If you look at like the CPI inflation, if it lets me look at it, look at the NASDAQ testing the lows of the day here. I don't think it's gonna let me go back this far on inflation though. Yeah, inflation was wild. Here's annual inflation in the 80s. From 1980 to 1989. 1980 was at almost 14% inflation in January and kind of stayed in the double digits. 1981 as well, stayed in the double digits. By 82, we started getting better. But man, 1980s were wild. Look at these months. 15, 18% inflation. Again, Fed Chair Volcker used aggressive tightening to break it. Federal funds rate was pushed as high as 20% in 80 to 81. Yeah, they were trying to bring that inflation down, which kind of made everybody unhappy. Again, we don't have anywhere near that inflation. We're still running at 3.5-3%, depending on which you're looking at, core or regular. NASDAQ still bottoming out here. Got a liquidity grab, moving back up to 475. Hawkish or dovish for today? I don't know. I mean, I'm not really hawkish or dovish today necessarily. You could ask if I'm bull or bearish, which is probably a more reasonable question. Hawkish or dovish just means, am I restrictive, which is hawkish, monetary policy wise, interest rate wise? Do I want to raise interest rates? Do I want higher interest rates, or do I want lower interest rates, which is a more dovish, loose monetary policy thing? I'm not really one. I'm kind of in the middle right now. I think you could either cut 25 basis points in September or end quantitative tightening. I don't think they're going to do both. I think they'll probably end up cutting 25 and continuing quantitative tightening at the levels that we're currently at. They've already reduced it, but... yeah, we're circle. Yeah. Again, NVIDIA... here's Apple. Apple down 226.40s right now. Let's see if we reject 475. It's possible. We're still very flat, very sideways. We don't have any economic reports really here. Not really. Every day for the rest of the week we do, but outside of today. Today's kind of boring. Again, we have the Chicago National Activity Index. Hassett says it's impossible for for Powell to get back in the president's good book. Again, so Japan's trade negotiator Akazawa may visit the United States this week. Hassett said we'll hopefully finalize a trade deal with South Korea. He expects the decision on the Fed chairman will run out for a few months before the president decides. But again, he said it was appropriate to consider a rate cut. If we take a look at yields right now, yields have mostly been moving up today. But again, yields are still pretty net down. Here is last week from Jackson Hole. Like, this decrease was from Jackson Hole. We're rebounding back up a little bit, showing more hawkish sentiment for yields, but it's not crazy, you know. Still rejecting 475. Nvidia's still red. Apple's red. Amazon's red. We'll try to get some trading in here. Yeah, trade deals don't move unless they're going to be like China, I would say, or like Europe, or maybe some of the other countries. But the biggest ones are going to be China, Europe, and maybe some of the other ones. Yeah, the Chicago Fed National Activity for July showed up at negative 0.19. Last time it was negative 0.18. So we got new home sales. Again, 635K is what they're expected to show up as. I mean, it's possible. I don't know how probable it is, but it's possible. It's still way lower than that right now, Pew. Canada, the largest importer from the United States. Yeah, but we're not really known as a big importer. You know, we end up exporting. Or we're not really known as a big exporter. I mean, we import other countries' goods more than we export our own. Just because, like, in the US, we got a high standard of living, and so things here are generally a little bit more expensive. And so it doesn't necessarily make as much sense to be some big exporter. More so we're importing cheaper goods from other countries is usually what we're doing. And that's why like a US-China deal it makes more sense. And it's more important and more influential over markets, is because if we don't get a deal done with them, prices for us, considering how much we import from China, inflation is going to spike if we don't. They both need us, to be honest, D. Like, the US needs China, sure, but China needs the US as well. They could pretend they don't, but they do. They don't want to lose their single largest... they don't want to lose the single largest, buyer of Chinese goods in the world outside of China, Like, they're not going to want to lose that. Nobody would. They might play hardball, but, regardless of what they say, they're not going to want to lose. All right, gold's still falling back down a little bit. And gold is elevated today. It's at 34.10s right now. Gold is still elevated up there. All right, so Taiwan's post says that it will suspend the acceptance and delivery of commercial mail items destined for the United States starting August 26th. So that's going on. Commerce Bank is nearing an agreement on job cuts, according to Hanselblatt. All right, Nasdaq still tapping that 475, but the range here, guys, is very small. It's hard to trade this. Maybe we push up, but it's too hard to predict when. I think right now, I don't think the edge is very high on this. So it's too hard to figure out when we're going to actually pop and move or break down. Still sideways range on the day for the last hour or two at least. This is not US, this is CBK and Commerce Bank. VIX is probably a little elevated today. Yeah. 15s. Anytime the market's down, the VIX is higher. Okay, UK market's closed. Gotcha. Yeah, you gotta understand, they're not gonna tell us exactly how they really feel, like, regarding China, you know? Like, of course, they're gonna put out, we're independent, you know? But they don't want to lose their single largest buyer, and the U.S. certainly doesn't want to lose their goods. So both sides do not. I would say both sides want to get a deal done, but again, they might play hardball. We don't know. Especially China might play hardball with it. We don't know what they're gonna do, but so far they kind of are. It looks like. I don't know. There's too much stuff coming out right now regarding. Somebody said high VIX is good for entry. This week we got too much stuff that might influence the market one way or another. You know, like I don't want to get stuck in the Nvidia volatility, and that's a very possible thing this week because Nvidia drops earnings on Wednesday. Markets might be fearful of that. PCE data on Friday, GDP data on Thursday, jobless claims on Thursday. So we got a lot of different stuff coming out that might move things, and so I just don't want to get stuck in this. And again, so we're getting some more updated information. So Taiwan's Post says that they're going to suspend the acceptance and delivery of commercial mail items destined for U.S. starting August 26th, which is tomorrow. This is primarily due to the U.S.'s decision to fully suspend the de minimis tariffs exemption for low-value goods starting August 29th. So again, de minimis is you avoid levies on like really low-value goods, like basically things that are not going to sustain margins if there's tariffs on them. So usually there's a de minimis exemption on like really low cost goods, because again, like if you start raising the prices of those things, they're not going to hold, nobody's going to buy them, right? But again, the US suspended the de minimis tariff exemption for low value goods that starts on August 29th. So this is Taiwan's response to that, essentially, that they're going to suspend the acceptance and delivery of commercial mail items destined for U.S. starting the 26th due to the U.S.'s decision to suspend the de minimis tariff exemption, which starts on August 29th. And so that's essentially what this all means. Yeah, it's a hard week to trade. We got a bunch of stuff coming out. This past week was interesting too, although we did get some choppiness. It just depends on what's going on. You go short, then the news hits. Yeah, I mean, that's a risk today for sure. Although we're starting to pop up a little bit. If we take a look at NVIDIA, NVIDIA is still technically red on the day at 177s. $23.5 at the open. Maybe we bounce back. I'm okay with just waiting here. I've traded a little bit. We're green on the day. It's not a really green day, but we're somewhat green. Yeah, I'm looking at other earnings. We don't really have anything else. Tomorrow we got some stuff. MongoDB, Box, Joy, a couple other ones. Wednesday morning we got like Kohl's, Abercrombie, Williams, Sonoma. We got NVIDIA earnings Wednesday after the close. So that'll be interesting. All right, let's see if we hold at 425 and break out of this chop now that we're starting to go back up a little bit here. Yeah, I'm trying to see when the next CPI report is. I think it's right before the Fed meeting. I think it's on the week of the 8th. For CPI. Yeah. So again, this is going to be a week where we got PPI first. Right? So the next PPI inflation data drops September 9th. And then Thursday. Yeah. So Wednesday the... Okay, I'm sorry. So it's not the 9th. PPI is going to be on Wednesday, September 10th. On Thursday, we got CPI. So PPI first, CPI next is what we see. Early September. So yeah, the next 3 weeks are all pretty busy in terms of economic reports. This week, we got GDP, PCE, NVIDIA, durable goods, jobless claims. Next week, we got ISM manufacturing, JOLTS report, ADP non-farm employment, ISM services, and non-farm payrolls and unemployment. And then the following week, we're going to have CPI and PPI data ahead of the Fed meeting the next week afterwards, right? So the next month, we're pretty busy all around. I might try to buy this Small trade at like 475. If we can catch it. We might not get that far down, but I'm looking for it. 475 is right here. Yeah, 475 is right here. The range is small in the day, but if we pull back here, I might buy it short term, see if we bounce. Yeah, I think PPI might be a little bit more important than CPI now, though, but it's arguable for sure. Yeah, I'm going to stream NVIDIA earnings, of course, yeah. NVIDIA earnings the biggest earnings of the season, so we're definitely streaming that. The Indian ambassador said that they're going to continue buying Russian oil as well. Looking for this dip, but middle range now. We'll see if we start popping back up. VRNT confirms it's going to be acquired by Thomas Bravo for $2 billion. They're also suspending their share repurchase program. Anything that looks cheap right now, I'll buy it. Just let me know if you see anything that looks cheap. What's up, Faye? President mad. Yeah. Oil seeing a drop this morning. Let's take a look at oil here. Oil's still at 64 though. It's more elevated than it was. It was at 61, 62s on the 17th. So oil's elevated though still. Hey, what's up, good news? Yeah, just to break down most of the breaking news we got this morning so far here. Most things are down slightly. They're starting to make a little bit of a rebound, but markets are pricing in an 85% chance of a September cut. Soft pullback suggests caution, though, like we got today. We got PCE, NVIDIA earnings, GDP this week. Intel's up 2 to 3% after the news that the government's going to make an $8.9 billion equity investment, taking almost 10% stake in the company, although the stake is not going to hold voting rights, which obviously I think is probably pretty good that the government can't control a private company or a public company. Furniture retailers are down after the president announced a tariff investigation into imported furniture. So furniture stocks are down, like Williams-Sonoma and more. Again, Verint Systems surging up 11%. Thomas Bravo nearing a $2 billion takeover of the call center software firm. PDD is up 11% or so, maybe a little bit less than that now after delivering standout Q2 earnings in e-commerce, although they did miss revenue. Keurig Dr. Pepper drops 3 to 4%. Greenlighting a $18 billion acquisition of Peet's and signaling a spinoff down the line where they're going to separate coffee and soda. Again, NVIDIA is up 33%. It's down slightly on the year today. It's down slightly in pre-market, though. Wednesday earnings is key test for tech, and NVIDIA is the most heavily weighted stock. So NVIDIA earnings are going to be an influential thing this week, of course. And yeah, we'll see what happens. That's basically the news today. Nothing really else big. We got Hassett speaking earlier, saying he agreed with Powell's speech. He said the speech was sound. He said we have justified rate cuts. Orsted, which is a wind farm operator, sees its second bad day this month after the president halts 80% completed project. The U.S. Bureau of Ocean Energy Management late Friday ordered a halt to all activities on the Revolution Wind project offshore of Rhode Island and cited unidentified national security concerns as well as prevention of interference with reasonable uses of the exclusive economic zone. Yeah, that's all good. Good news. I hope Nvidia has good earnings. I like Dr. Pepper, but I've given up most sodas anyway. I don't drink sodas anymore. Too much processed sugar for me personally. I'm just not a big, like, I'm trying to eat healthier and be healthier. And sodas are just not healthy. It doesn't matter which way you look at it. Sometimes I'll drink like a stevia soda, which I know isn't much better. Like a soda with some caffeine and stevia in it, but I'm not really a big drinker. I might drink a Coca-Cola every now and then, but it's like maybe like once every few months, maybe. You know, you got some people that keep them at their house and just drink them all day, every day. I'm not doing that. Bitmine. I don't know too much about this one, to be honest. Volatile though. This thing back in June and July got up to $161. It's now at 53. Had a massive pullback. The volatility is just too high for me. It's up a little bit. It's at $53. Started as a medicine. Yeah, but it also had, you know, as the name suggests, you know, a very inebriating substance in it. I'm sure it did make people feel better, but doesn't mean it was good back then either, you know. Opinion piece came out on Apple this morning, basically saying they're falling behind in the AI push. I can't really knock like Apple's a hardware company. They're not really a software AI company. Like, yeah, Meta's gonna want to get involved with AI. You know, Google, of course, a software company. They're gonna want to get involved with AI. I understand that. That makes sense to me. Apple's a hardware company mostly. Does it have some software? Sure, but it's not known for its software like that. And so I don't know. I think Apple's more of a hardware company. I don't think we should critique them very much regarding AI, because I think it's comparing apples to oranges, you know. But I guess I understand. Apple does have its software, its operating systems, and all that stuff, and I get it. But they're not really known for that. And they certainly don't license theirs out to other companies like the other ones do. All right. I don't think Apple's going to become the next Nokia. I think they're mostly a US company, of course. I don't think a lot of people use them outside of the United States. I'm sure some people do. But I also understand the dynamic of, like, if you don't live in the US, you probably don't understand how big Apple is here specifically. Like, if you go outside the US, most people have Androids, Samsungs, you know. But I think in the United States, almost everybody has Apple. It's a rarity to find someone with a Samsung. It's not super rare, but it's much more rare. Almost everybody here has Apple. Has an Apple device for their mobile device. You know, and I think Apple's done some really smart things to keep that the case here in the United States. Will that dynamic change? It could, but I'm not a big bear on Apple necessarily. Previous song was called Within Reason by Gustav. Within Reason is what it was called. This is the same guy. This is a Gustav song here too. What's up, Femi? Oh yeah, they definitely touted Apple Intelligence, and I think that's something they'll come out with as well. I mean, you got to understand, right? I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think they should get involved with AI more so than they are. But we don't know what they're doing behind the scenes anyway. You know, Apple unveils things, and I think they'll probably do that sometime in the future regarding AI. We just don't hear about it yet. On the other hand, though, I do agree. And again, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Right now, what we're seeing is people, and especially big tech companies, recognize that whoever controls AI is going to run the world, right? And so what we see is this race to control AI. We see all these different companies vying for their own AI systems. They want their AI system to win because most people recognize whoever controls AI is going to rule the world. So it's a money grab system right now. Like, everybody's getting involved with it. And because of that, I think Apple should get involved with it as one of the largest tech companies in the world. But, you know, we'll see what they do. I'm not sure. I personally have a Samsung, right? Like, I don't use Apple. I've used Samsung for years. I've never had an Apple phone ever. And so, but I like Apple stock as well, though. I'm not saying it's going to go up. Remember, I'm not an investment professional, guys. I'm not liable. If you lose, always make your own assessment, trade smart. I can't guarantee anything. Also, if you want to check out Top Step, a great way to help support the channel. No PDT rule on futures. They give you a demo. They test your skill with it. You pass the test, they fund you. You fail, you lose $50 for the base one, $100 for the middle one. It's not the end of the world. It's a great way to learn how to trade in a structured environment. And most day traders lose. So if you put up your own 5, 10, 20, 30 grand in day trading, you're probably going to lose that. Instead, you could risk $50. If you pass it, you get a 50K funded account, 90% split, and you get to keep your first 10K prior to the split kicking in. And so it's a similar reward to funding your own account, noticeably less risk, and I think that just makes sense. And most day traders lose regardless of where they go, including here, because most day traders just lose. But frankly, it's a lot cheaper to lose here usually than it is to fund your own account. And again, day trading in the futures market, very similar to day trading stocks. No PDT rule. Get you around the PDT rule. You can day trade the S&P, NASDAQ, Dow, Russell, commodities, gold, all these other things, micro Bitcoin, and it just makes sense, guys. It just makes sense. And so if you want to check it out, they are an affiliate or sponsor of mine. I am biased in their favor. And so understand that, of course. Top 3 most biased person ever, but genuinely useful for traders. And again, if you want to check it out, I'll put the link up. Everybody else in my family is Apple. Everybody else in my family. Hey, bud. How you doing, man? You doing okay?
Yeah, love you, Dad.
Love you, bud. Have a good day, dude. Yeah, as a programmer and somebody... When I was 12, I got in trouble because I was downloading the Star Wars prequels before they actually come out. And again, it's not really a brag. I think it's just kind of a funny story because my dad got a cease and desist letter and I got in trouble as a kid from it. But and so when it came time to like pick out a phone, Apple phones were too closed off for me personally. Like, I wasn't gonna, you know, Apple's just too closed off. I would much rather have more freedom in that regard than, you know, an Apple phone. Now, maybe they've gotten better. I don't know. I'm not necessarily against them, and I understand why they're closed off. They're definitely safer phones, I think, depending on who's using it and all that stuff. But that's why I ended up getting a Samsung, is because, you know, I wanted to download music. I wanted to download things on my phone. I didn't necessarily want to be restricted from whatever I wanted to use, as well as like I program as well, and like I always kind of saw Samsung a little bit better for that as well in that context. So it's just, yeah. Yeah, I really like the Z Fold. Z Folds are really nice, surprisingly durable. Surprisingly durable. All right, so Navarro is speaking right now. He said it's insanity that Europe still buys Russian oil. And again, India just came out and said they're going to continue to buy Russian oil as well. AbbVie is going to acquire Gilgamesh Pharmaceuticals for 1.2 billion. JavaScript and Python and like React and React Native, mostly good news. I'm mostly a front-end developer, but I have dabbled in others. So like Python was the first language I learned. In hindsight, I might have learned a harder language at first, because they always say to start with Python, because Python's like the most literal language with the easiest syntax, essentially. But in hindsight, it would make more sense to learn a more difficult language, and then learning everything else would have been easier. But, you know, I figured it out. They're pretty good, Faye. Do you still think it's worth learning programming now? I think there's risks for sure in learning it now, based off of how good AI systems have gotten for it. I think there's risks. But I also think it's still a necessary and valuable skill in some tech areas. It depends on what kind of job you want to get. You know? If you're self-employed and you want to create your own stuff, probably not. But if you're working for another company, of course, it just depends. All right, I love you.
Love you.
Yeah, I mean, technically I learned with C++ back in school, but I didn't retain much of my C++ knowledge. All right, we're down to under the 200 exponential on the volume weighted average price. We're at 487s now on the NASDAQ. The Z Fold was nice. I don't currently have one because I ended up breaking it last time. And like I bought a temporary phone and I just haven't, like I'll probably end up going by. The new one is supposed to be ultra thin. I'll probably end up getting one of them eventually. But at this point I've got just like a cheaper, like it's like a $300 or $400 phone and it does everything I want it to do, you know? So like I haven't had any real justification in going get the Z Fold. And so, yeah, I'm kind of in the middle right now with what I want to do with it. Part of me wants to go get the Z Fold because I've had a fold phone for like 5 years plus now. But at the same time, this one's easier to deal with, right? Like the Z Fold was surprisingly durable, but this one's been easier to just deal with. It's lighter. I don't have to open it every time I use it. You know, every time I want to watch something or anything, I don't have to open it. But there's some cons to it too. Like there's pros and cons. All right, guys. Nasdaq's trying to get up there. The range is so small on the day, though, guys. Y'all just be careful. We don't really have any breaking news anymore. Not really, at least. Uh, all right, guys, so we're coming back down. We're at 490 now. All right, guys, so again, we are sitting down here in NVIDIA. Look at NVIDIA fall down. It's at 177.50s here. We got 20 minutes until the opening bell. I'm hoping we get some more volatility leading into it. Oil's been pushing up. Gold was also elevated the last time I looked at it, although it's starting to pull back in terms of range now. It's starting to dip. Apple is down on the day. NVIDIA's red on the day. We've been basically flat this morning, very sideways. All right, we are now down to 478. See if we bounce at 475. It's been a bounce level all morning. I'm just trying to wait for some good data. Yeah, I like Apple phones, to be honest. I won't buy a fold phone until it unfolds to a 16:9 aspect ratio. Like use the 1:1 screen. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, Z Fold's definitely not, but they're honestly surprisingly durable, at least from my experience. I remember the Sidekick Faye. It was cool. I always wanted one, never got one. After the Matrix came out, I had like a little cheap brick type phone. I remember they had the Matrix phones where you could hold it up and like press the button and it would and open up. You know, I remember I wanted one. I remember checking eBay at the time as like a kid, and they were like $1,000 back in 1999. And so I remember asking for my parents for one, and they were like, no, dude, get out of here. So maybe I'll get one now. Honestly, no, the new Z Folds were pretty held battery pretty well. Not as good as like this cheap thing, but it's much smaller. Would need less of a battery. Will you let us know when you exit the majority of your position? No. I mean, again, I don't. Last year was different. Last year was an election year. We were kind of manic, I would say, in markets. You know, here's the thing, right? Like, people always talk about how we're going to crash. Every year you hear this. Literally every single year, people think we're going to crash. Okay? And I've criticized that wildly in the past, like, over predicting crashes. The only time I have thought that we were going to make a big correction was last year. And I told the stream, and we did correct big, you know. a couple months later. And so now in hindsight, I still should have freaking held because we're back up, and I did buy back in, so it doesn't matter. But it was a wild couple months. I ended up buying back in on the pullback as well, so I probably got a little bit better entries anyway. But yeah, what I do with my investment accounts, I'm not gonna give you guys every single move. It's just not a reasonable expectation for me to. I'm not claiming to be an expert. I'm not selling you a course. I'm not even claiming to be right about anything. But yeah, y'all aren't gonna get full transparency in terms of when I buy anything, just because I don't want to give it to you guys personally. I'm green on the year, you know, if that makes you feel better. I was green last year too. But yeah. No, I definitely didn't, Rojas. I wasn't that into the Matrix. I just wanted the Matrix phone. Alright, we're bouncing again, right around 475, same level. Yeah. Like, I'm not one to lie to you guys. I'm just going to be honest about it. Like, I'm not going to tell you guys I'm the greatest trader ever, and then, you know. Okay, so Barclays said that the U.S. economy is stalling 50% recession risks in 2 years. Barclays says the U.S. economy is likely in a stall with a 50% chance of recession in the next 2 years. Slower growth and payroll data indicate heightened vulnerability. Key indicators suggest stall probabilities in the economy of 47 to 90%. The bank expects this could lead the Fed Reserve to cut rates 25 basis points in September and December, so twice this year. Will it be enough to save us from economic weakness? You know, we haven't actually entered a recession, really. I mean, it depends on what data you're looking at. Briefly in 2022, we did. But we've rebounded pretty quick from it. The last real one, I would say. Like, again, I can argue we had a little mini one in 2022. Okay, real quick. U.S. President posts, quote, "I paid for Intel. It is worth approximately $11 billion. All goes to the U.S. Why are dumb people unhappy with that? I will make deals like that for our country all day long." End quote. I love seeing their stock go up, making the U.S. richer and richer, more jobs for America. Who would not want to make deals like that? End quote. So, talking about the Intel deal. Again, I'm not saying I agree or disagree with any of this. I'm just kind of, you know, when I see a president speak, since he moves markets, I'm going to tell you guys what it is. Intel spiking up again on this. 2540s here, 2540s. Well, he doesn't have any voting rights, Big Benny. So, I don't know. Like they say the Intel deal is not going to give them voting rights, which means they can't control the company. They're just going to own a specific stake in it. All right, guys, we got 13 minutes left. Yeah, and remember, yesterday afternoon, a Bitcoin whale sold 24,000 Bitcoin worth almost $3 billion, causing a $4,000 crash in minutes. They still hold 153,000 worth more than 17 billion, but they sold about almost 3 billion in their position, 2.7 billion to be specific. That caused Bitcoin to drop. If we take a look at it, Bitcoin at 111s right now as we speak. Sorry for the noise. Alright. Had to find something. Again, the range is so freaking small, guys. Maybe we'll move. I'm hoping we move a little bit today. The range is so small, it's boring. Hey, thank you, Rusty, for the donation, brother. Thank you so much. Will there be a 5% pullback within the next 6 weeks? I don't know, chat. Let me know. Do you guys think we'll get a 5% pullback? Thank you for the donation, though, brother. I appreciate it. I don't believe in digital currency, really? So you don't hold any money in a bank? You don't hold any... You don't use PayPal at all? You know? You don't buy anything on Amazon? You just keep cash? Yeah, crypto pulling back. Are you bullish or bearish on crypto over the next month, chat? Yeah, September is known for the pullbacks we get. It's called the September slump. In coffee cans? Okay. So you're going real old school with it. Alright. So you're like Uncle Eddie in Vegas Vacation, basically, right? Bear on Bitcoin? Very bullish. I thought we may retrace at least 50% of that candle from Friday to build structure, maybe lower. Bullish to the end of the year, but September slump is coming. Bullish for Bitcoin. Alright guys, about 8.5 minutes. Coffee cans are too modern? Yeah. Mattresses, you know, that's it. We broke multiple previous lows. Yeah, September slump is maybe coming. I don't know. I think it depends on the data that shows up. Again, we got PCE data, GDP data, NVIDIA earnings, durable goods this week. Next week, we have non-farm payrolls, unemployment, non-farm employment change data, the JOLTS job report, ISM services, and ISM manufacturing data. Then the week after that, so two weeks away from now, or 3 weeks really, or no, 2 weeks, yeah. We have CPI and PPI inflation data. So we got a lot of data coming in the next 3 weeks that are going to influence whether we get a September slump, in my opinion. We'll see what it looks like, but yeah. Medium, midterm, and long-term bullish crypto, short-term bearish. Okay, so the president just posted again, quote, "What's going on in South Korea seems like a purge or revolution. We can't have that or do business there. I am seeing the new president today at the White House. Thank you for your attention to this matter," end quote. Also on on Intel deal, again, he said, "I will make deals like that for our country all day long, which will also help these companies that make lucrative deals with the United States." He said, "I paid $0. It's worth $11 billion. Novatech is going to lower some of the naphtha exports following the fire at one of the complexes. May resume gas condensate shipments, according to Reuters. Again, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with any of this stuff. I'm just covering what the press says. All right, guys. Hey, we got 6 minutes. I'm excited, man. I'm ready to trade potentially here, but I'm gonna wait and try to find some good stuff. Not really getting the best action here. So it's been a little slow this morning. A little slow. Oh man. All right. United Health pulling back a little bit. Nvidia's still down. Been trending down all morning. Are we cooked? Cooked in what context? It's which sector cooked? What's up, Skrelly Planet? I'm torn on how I feel about, like, I'm not necessarily against Skrelly. What I heard is that, like, everybody gets mad at him because he raised the price on that insulin drug or whatever it was. Was it insulin or was it something else? Anyways, what I heard is that he only he gave it away mostly for free to people that didn't have insurance, and that he only raised it if you had insurance. So the only people really paying for it were the insurance companies, and that's what everybody didn't like. Or that's what that's what big money didn't like, is the insurance companies having to pay more. And so if that's true, I can't get too upset with him if that's the truth, right? But again, I don't really know the truth, so you ever buy real estate investment trusts? Sometimes. All right, Nvidia's starting to rebound. It's at 178. Nasdaq following it back up. It's at almost 23,493. Yeah, I don't really check on all that doubt. I know he's mostly in like biotech, and biotech's a market that I just do not know. So I avoid it because I just don't know it. Yeah, I also thought his interviews with DJ Vlad were interesting as well. You know. All right, we're at 490, trying to make a bounce here. Skrelly also kept the Wu-Tang album from us. Yeah, but didn't he have to? Wasn't that in the terms? That he couldn't publicly release it? And I like old Wu-Tang. I'm not about to pay that much for an album, though. All right, we're almost up there. Watch 23.5, so we're holding at 490. We're still moving up. All right, we're moving up, bouncing at 490 now that we're over it, and the 200 exponential. Nvidia now technically green on the day. Is there some breaking news here? Let me make sure. Are there any recent chip stocks are running right now? Is it the Intel? Jim Cramer says Intel needed the money. Look at 23.5s, rejecting right off of it. Let's see if we hold here. I gotta start just attacking the levels that I have on charts. No, he's got a bunch of content on stocks. No, that's why I don't ever watch anything unless like I watched the Lil Boosie DJ Vlad one just because I'm from Baton Rouge, right? And so Lil Boosie's going on DJ Vlad. I'll watch it. And I've watched some of the other ones, but I like the stock content. He's got some stuff on there. All right, we just tapped 23.5s. Coming right back down here. The opening bell's in about a minute. All right, guys, here we go. Sorry, I'm just realizing I'm in top chat, not live chat, so I'm kind of missing some of the comments here. All right, opening bell in about 30 seconds, 35 seconds. All right, 25 seconds. All right, here we go. Hopefully we get some volatility. We got straight chop, although we're starting to push up. Nvidia had this big rip. I'm assuming this is from the chip news with Intel, but I don't really see any other breaking news. All right. There is the opening bell. NASDAQ push over 23.5s. Watch Nvidia closely, Apple closely. Down to 226s. Nvidia's falling down though. Meta's ripping up. It's at 758s. Amazon's pushing up too. Tech's moving up ahead of Nvidia earnings today. Look at this. We're starting to see some volatility. Big retracement as Nvidia falls back down here. I can't trade this. I gotta let the opening bell volatility play out. I gotta wait at least 5 minutes. Yeah, Bitcoin up a little bit, but Meta's still rising up, but Nvidia's falling down here. Look at the fall. The turnaround here. First move was the wrong move this morning at the opening bell. At least so far. We could chop sideways though. Look at this drop. Wow. The imbalance was mostly negative for S&P and NASDAQ, although it was slightly positive for the Dow and Mag 7. Up and down. Opening bell here. Again, I'm gonna wait. I'm not trading this right now. It would be 52 times 1.8, 93.6 plus 32, 125.6 Fahrenheit, Sam. All right, we're at 475. Let's see if it holds. Here's the 200 exponential up there at 490. NASDAQ still falling. Look at Nvidia drop. We'll push it up though. I kind of almost want to buy this. We're 3 minutes into the day. It's risky. And I think I'm just going to wait, but I am tempted to buy this up. I'm waiting here just to clarify, but... Alright, still dropping at 450s right now. See if we bounce at 450 here. Getting some volatility at the open though. We're moving here at the very least at the opening bell. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm gonna wait. It's too early still, and we're kind of whippy right now. We went up originally and then immediately back down. Nvidia has been falling since the opening bell is what's been driving this. Look at Nvidia here. 176.50s. All right, so Kaoshi is going to expand deeper into crypto after hiring ex-influencer John Wang as head of crypto. All right, we're back up. Let's see 475s here. Look at 475s. All right, we're 5 minutes into the day. I'll show a 475 we get up there. All right, we got a little bit late, maybe. We can try the 200 exponential here. See if we come back down. I'm going to cut half of that. It's too whippy. We're great on the day anyway, but... Oh, I still have 2 contracts. I thought I only had... Oh my gosh, I'm adding way too much to this. Alright, we're going to cut half of that there. And we're going to get out. Way too whippy here. Up and down. Maybe sideways, but big range today is what we're getting. I don't know. Could have held maybe, but too risky. It looks like it's going to retrace back up there, though. But you never know. There it goes. Okay, maybe I just gotta look at 490. I'll buy this now too, I think, but I need a little bit lower. I don't think I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna buy that there. Alright, we cut half. Immediately retrace back up, and we're out the rest. We just went up so fast at my level here at this 475 level that we bought. So, I mean, I had to cut it quickly just because look at that retracement. All right, 23.5's right above us here, right above us. Amazon's popping up too. I expect us to go a little higher here. Depends on what Nvidia does, though. Nvidia continues down. Again, not an investment professional, not liable if you lose. Look at Amazon here. United Health dumping down again. I sold mine last week. I'm out of United Health. Yeah, there's the upward move. There's 23.5s. That's a level. Also, again, we're day trading on Top Step right now. This is a great way to learn. You can see it's very similar to day trading stocks. No PDT run futures. They give you a 50K demo for the base one. It's $50 a month. You pass it, 50K funded account. You get to keep your first 10K afterwards, and then 90% split following that. Great way to learn how to day trade. It's the best of both worlds. Limited risk, similar reward to funding your own account. No PDT rule. They pay out millions, fund thousands. You get 0 commission on Top Step X as well. Great way to learn. You can check out the link I'll put up in chat one more time. They're a sponsor of mine, though. I'm biased. I get paid by them, but genuinely useful for traders. Genuinely useful. And if you want to check it out, again, here's the link. We are moving up as I thought we would. Amazon ended up breaking over the previous close here, kind of dragging us higher. But see 525 up there. Maybe we can look for like a 500 or a 505 pullback here. I'm too worried about choppiness, though. Could have taken the 505 pullback, maybe. Let's see. There's 500 right below it. I do like 500, big whole dollar number. There's 500. So I like it enough to buy this, though. I guess I'll try here. Okay, that's good. Let's see if we hold up there now. It's very possible we sideways trend based off of all the stuff coming out this week, too. So I'm not the most confident in this, but I'll sit in it and play with this. One contract small. I'm not going to add to this here. We're going to cut that there, too. It might bounce right here, but looks like we got out just in time before that big drop. Amazon rejected heavy at this previous closing price. All right, so far we got chop. I'm gonna short this, actually. All right, we just got filled. Short worked. Quick scalps this morning. There's not really any big edge, I think, right now. We're green. All right, we're bouncing right back up there. We bounced right at 475. Again, I just see choppiness right now. We're slightly bullish trend, but choppiness. Depends on what NVIDIA does, though. I'm pretty sure it does, Della, but I'm not 100%. You have to check with them. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, guys. We appreciate it. We got a lot of data coming out this week, so if you want to follow what's going on in markets, you can subscribe here. We cover it all. Every 8:30 data release, we're here live, dropping it as soon as it comes out. So you want a one-stop shop for that, subscribe. We appreciate it. Again, the president is going to sign the executive order at approximately 10 o'clock. I do not expect this to move markets at all. It could, but I don't think it will. Still very choppy open, to be honest here. Slight bullish trend, though, like I said. It's an executive order about, like, flags or something like that is what I saw. I don't think it's going to move markets at all, personally. Looks like we want to creep up. I almost bought just now. Maybe I should have. Maybe it's a good thing I didn't. 23.5 still holding resistance here. I'll try again here. Maybe add a little bit down to this 200 EMA here. See if we pop back up. There we go. We're green. See if we go back green here and pop up. Not green anymore. I'm gonna cut this. It's just too much. Like, I'm down like 50 bucks or something like that, so it's pretty small. But I don't want to lose too much on that account, so I'm just gonna wait. It's just really choppy at this point in time, though. Look at that retracement. So it's just kind of whippy. Again, the president speaks sometime soon, I think, right? Amazon's starting to flush down too. Let me see if we could catch this on the downside. We actually just made our money back in the other account, by the way. I just didn't. Yeah, we're chopping sideways right now. So we're actually green. We ended up making about 50 bucks, but I attacked the breakdown. We broke under this 7.5 level. Again, though, guys, I'm not the most confident here. I mean, if Amazon and Nvidia starts to flush down, that's good. On the bear side, at least, if you want to short. But Bitcoin's still falling down. Bitcoin under 111, at least for Bitcoin futures. It's a big red candle. I'll try to long this just to attack chop. There's a couple risks here, but we can play with it. And then if it breaks lows, just get out. There's two. We took half off there. All right, we're out of that. Green. Chop, I think, is the easiest thing to attack. There's 475s. Yeah, I mean, I think choppiness makes sense. Look at Nvidia rebound. Look at Amazon rebound. It might continue down now, but we just kind of rode the bounce. Bitcoin now, again, under 111s, or at least it was for a little while. One of the big levels today, I think 475 has been holding really well, if you look at it. I mean, it's going to keep holding, and as I say that, here's another test of it. It depends on what Nvidia does here. Nvidia looks like it wants to rebound, but look at 475 again, holding. Eventually it might get chipped away though, and we might get over it, but very sideways open. Here's the third or fourth test of it. All right, so the South Korea's presidential office said they're going to check the situation after the president's comments. All right, so yeah, now we're over 475. It looks like we did get chipped away. Nvidia's just rebounding back up. Very, very, very choppy open, guys. I just don't think... I don't think this is easy to trade. If I were you guys, I'd just be very careful. I'm probably just going to cut out of here. Again, if you want to check out Top Step, beautiful way to help support the channel. No PDT in futures. You can day trade the S&P, NASDAQ, Dow, Russell, gold. Very similar to day trading stocks. Get you around the PDT rule. You get started for 50 bucks. You pass the test. You get a 50K funded account. 90% split when most day traders lose money. It's a great way to learn. Great way to get funded. Great way to get started if you don't have that much money. Instead of depositing 25 grand trying to day trade stocks, it makes no sense to do that. Instead, try this. I don't think the president is going to say anything about markets. There's a link right there. Again, I'm going to get out of here. Understand all this stuff on screen. Can't guarantee anything. Not an investment professional. Again, market's just too choppy. We're green on the day, actually. We're up in both accounts that we're trading. We're not red in any accounts today. But it's just kind of boring and not really very good for trading, I think. So y'all be careful. Some days it's best to just step away. And I think right now, for me, at least, it looks like one of those days. Again, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Not an investment professional. I'm sponsored by Top Step, so I'm biased, of course. Understand CFTC 4.41 and all that good stuff. But I'm going to get out of here. Love to you guys. Appreciate the love. Thanks so much. Be careful today. Tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we got economic reports, data, and stuff that might move markets. We might be a little less choppy as we go through the week. But yeah, so far we're choppy and boring. Y'all be good. Have a great day. I'll see you guys next time.